All right. Hi, y'all. Welcome to another episode. So, in this episode, I want to talk about first date number 68, and I want to talk about stargazing or celestial navigation. So, stargazing to me has always been fucking fascinating. Like, I love the idea. Well, I love being outside anyway, right? But I love the idea of being outside, like bonfire, hiking, climbing, fucking whatever. Like, I love being outside, right? One of the reasons I love my dog right now, Ike, is like he and I can just sit outside forever. And he's like super mellow, so he can just like hang out with me. Like, I don't have to worry about him wandering off too much if he's on leash or whatever. Anyway, like, I love being outside with him. And the reason I think I really like the stars is because, like, the romantic idea, right? It's going to be Christmas. I don't know. I just, like, love the idea so much. I also want to talk a tiny bit about first date number 69, which is actually happening on Christmas night, which is fucking, like, Hallmark movie and shit, right? But this episode, talk a little bit more about stargazing, celestial navigation. I'm not an expert, so just as you guys like mentioned actually on social media last week about like EDC and including that, please feel free to continue to give me tips along the way, especially because this is more of just the tips really. But also I just love like the interaction. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, as you guys know, I have decided to take myself off of dating apps, right? So I'm no longer on them. I decided, as I mentioned in the last episode, I was going to focus on 68 and 69. I'm a huge believer in like things happen the way they're supposed to. I'm a huge believer in looking for signs, reading signs, interpreting signs, right? So these two, 68 and 69, completely different people, right? You know, different jobs, different, you know, like points in their life, like different family situations, whatever, different men. But I felt like they were both emotionally available. And I met 68 in September on a dating app. I believe it was Facebook dating app. Not that it really matters because, of course, we went to text and phone call and the whole bit. So with my schedule, right, Monday through Friday, mostly 9 to 7, sometimes weekends, whatever, it was challenging to meet because he doesn't have a set schedule. So he's a gym manager. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, obviously, but his schedule rotates. So it's like 12 to 14 hours a day, right? And it rotates. So since his schedule rotates and I'm pretty much always off on the weekends, he's not always off on the weekends, right? So it was challenging to meet. So, you know, we spoke a lot. We spoke every day. We didn't speak a ton throughout the day, but we spoke enough every day where it was like familiar and comfortable and expected, right? He seemed like a really nice person. You know, over text, you know, we shared like memes, great sense of humor. I thought, you know, he had, and then I thought like our sense of humor meshed. I thought he was like attractive as shit. He had like beautiful fucking beard, beautiful green eyes. Anyway, I thought like, you know, it was great. But unfortunately with his schedule and my schedule, it was hard to work out, right? So it's going to be fucking Christmas. I just met him this past Saturday and we had a date lined up, but because of my fucking schedule and his fucking schedule, he couldn't make it. And I knew that he was having a work emergency because, as I said, we spoke daily. So like I knew it was coming. And when we had the first date lined up, he was like, I'm so sorry. I know that, you know, my job is going to fucking blow up. And, you know, he was like, I just can't get out of it. I know it's coming, right? So sure enough, you know, we were supposed to hang out for a weekend. He lives about 3 hours away, just shy of 3 hours. And he was just like, you know, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm incredibly sorry. I'll make it up to you somehow. I'll look at my schedule. In fact, I'm probably going to switch job positions because I don't want to fuck up the opportunity to get to know you, Tracy, right? And I was like, well, holy fuck. So I felt kind of obligated at that point, right? I mean, I was honored in the sense of like, you don't meet very many people who are willing to like change their life for you so quickly, especially especially if you haven't even fucking met in person, right? So the reason I bring this up is because I kind of felt kind of obligated, right? And as I said, I think you're supposed to look for signs and read signs and interpret signs or whatever, right? And I was actually talking to one of my like fucking future soldiers about this today, right? So she's a female, whatever. But we were talking about how like things happen the way they're supposed to happen. And I really believe like if you put good shit out there, good shit will come back, right? So we were talking about that today and anyway, whatever. So at the same time that I was talking to 68, right, as I've mentioned before, 69 and I had started chatting in October. So I don't know, 20-something-ish days later, we started chatting, right? And as I said, you know, I decided to get myself off of all apps. So I was just focusing on these two men who seemed emotionally available, which is a big fucking deal, right? So Anyway, so I was kind of conflicted because I ended up getting along with both of them, which is weird because I think one of my biggest faults in life is I'm like too fucking honest, you know? So I was becoming conflicted. I was like, should I keep talking to both of them? Should I just try to focus on one? And then if it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it just seemed weird to me. Like, even though I've gone on, you know, up until this point, 68 first dates, it just felt weird to me, especially as time went on, because so 69 and I have kind of known each other through social media for about 10 years or so, give or take. And, we started talking more and more and over text, and then we started phone calls, and the phone calls were fucking awesome. Like, I love it. Like, every time we're on the phone, it's like 4 hours, right? And it's crazy because it never feels like it. Anyway, so it's really awesome. So I feel like even though I met 68 before 69, I felt like I was getting to know 69 more, right? And I was like really conflicted. I was like, do I really want to go out with 68? Because 69 and I had made plans, whatever. Anyway. So I was like, over time, I was like, I don't like the position that I put myself in, and I don't like the position that I put either of these men in. It just felt awkward, right? And I feel like they're good people, and I just didn't like it. Anyway, so time went on, and I was more conflicted. And then I'm like, should I go? Should I not go? Should I go? Should I not go? As far as meeting 68, right? So inevitably he rescheduled, and he was just like, this is going to fucking happen. He was like, come up for the weekend. He was like, you know, bring Ike. You know, I had never been to the city that he lives in New York. So he's just like, you know, come up. You know, he was like, you know, I'll make you like a nice dinner. He cooks all the fucking time, right? He was like, I'll make you a really nice dinner. He's this really cute fucking recipe book from his like grandmother and grandfather and mom, and it's awesome. Anyway, so he was like, come up, you know, I'll cook for you that first night, bring Ike, you know, we'll hang out depending on what the weather's like, because it's fucking New York, it's, you know, December, whatever. We'll do a bunch of shit, you know, involving Ike the next day. I'm like, cool, right? Never been there, fuck it, why not, right? So sure enough, as the day we had set the fucking time to meet up and everything, and I was looking forward to it, but I was also at the point where I'm like, I really kind of want to focus on 69, but fuck it. I made the commitment, talked to 69 about it, and he was just a nicer person and human than I think I am. So he's just like, you made the commitment, go for it, see what happens, right? If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, whatever, right? So I'm like, fine. So the whole time 68 is really nice, whatever. So sure enough, this is what happens. Okay, so I ended up like driving up, right? And like I said, you know, our plans were to go up like the night before. He was going to make dinner. I was going to spend the night at his place, and then the next day we were going to like focus on, you know, ways to entertain Ike. It was going to be awesome. And then of course I was going to go home, whatever. So the weather was cold, but it wasn't snowy. Though it was beginning to get like flurries. And as Ike and I were driving up there, I was like, gosh, I'm having some moments where I should fucking turn around, you know? But it's also too like, you know, when you're on a road trip and you've gone so far, it's like you can't go back to like the point of no return, right? I was like, I've fucking gone this far, I might as well fucking keep going, right? And of course, you know, as I've said many times before, my mother didn't raise me to go anywhere if I didn't have money, right? So the whole time I was like, if the weather gets really bad, fuck it, Ike and I will just pull over, we'll get an Airbnb, hotel, fucking sleep in the Jeep, whatever, right? Because, you know, I have like basic survival, you know, skill shit in my Jeep all the time. So I was like, worst case scenario, Ike and I sleep in the Jeep if the weather's bad. Anyway, so the weather is kind of shitty, but whatever, we make it. So, you know, I make it to his place, right? So I go ahead and send a text, and, you know, I'm walking Ike. There's like snow on the ground, not a lot, but a little bit. And it's like cold as fuck. And he's like, oh my God, hi, whatever. So it's awesome. And Ike instantly loves him, which of course instantly fucking warms my heart, right? So they get along really well. And then, you know, like we're walking for a little bit, making sure Ike pees, whatever. And then we go inside, right? And he's really cool, you know, really nice guy. You know, like I said, I've been chatting with him from fucking September to December. So I knew that he was like a nice person. And he was kind of like, you know, let's just see how it goes, which is kind of how I am too, right? He's just like, you know, my bed's over there, my sofa's here, I have like a spare room. Let's just see how it goes, right? There's no like expectation, no pressure. We're just meeting to hang out. I'm like, that's awesome because, you know, whatever. So, but what I did notice is when we made it inside his place, I started taking a really close look at him. He looks like I thought he was going to look because we had done some video calls and shit. But I realized this man that I thought was fucking beautiful with the beard and the green eyes, great bodybuilder body, whatever, works in a gym, was not sober, right? And who am I to fucking judge? I drink probably more than I would say my mother would like me to drink, but I don't drink to excess. I just drink to like unwind. I hate my job, whatever. When I deploy, go out of town. If, I can't drink, that's fine. But my point is, I was like, I wonder how many drinks he's had. Not to be too judgy, right? But I'm like, interesting. I'm like, maybe he's nervous. He hadn't dated anybody for like a good 2 years up until me. A really long story with his life. Not going to go into it, obviously, for privacy. But I was like, maybe he was just more nervous than I thought, right? So I'm like, I'm going to let it go. Okay, so sure enough, we go into his kitchen. It smells fucking amazing, right? And he makes a lot of food like all the time, right? Especially for his friends and family and all sorts of shit, whatever. Because of the recipe book, like I said before. Anyway, so I was like, hey, so what are you making? By the way, I think I have mentioned on a podcast, but I was recently diagnosed with hypothyroidism. So because of the hypothyroidism, they're still managing my medicine, right? Which I cannot fucking pronounce, but they're still managing my medicine as far as the dosage of it. So, and of course I'm in the Army with height weight standards. So I've been like hyper critical of like every calorie I consume as much as I can, right? I'm mostly having one meal a day, some snacks sometimes, depends on the fucking day and my task at hand. Anyway, the reason I mention this is because if you are in my inner circle, you know that like I'm fucking obsessed with food and calories, and I'm probably going to end up with some fucking food problem at some point, which hopefully I don't, but I'm like that focused on it because until they stabilize the medication and my metabolism is fixed, like it's really slow. So I have to be really careful. Anyway, and then of course I have scrappy, so I can't work out, so it makes it worse. Fucking perfect storm. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because I spoke to 68 every fucking day, right? So the fact that when I was like, hey, what are we eating? This place smells great. And this man looks at me with his green eyes and his beautiful beard and amazing biceps and says, I fucking made pizza. I was like, what? And I was like kind of confused because, as I said, been watching my calories, which he knows because we talk about, right? Not that we talk about food every fucking day, but fuck, right? How does he not know? So I'm like, what? You made pizza? And I was like, what kind? Is it like dough? Is it like cauliflower? Like what kind of fucking pizza? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, of course it's like white flour. And I was like, ooh, okay. Because he had a couple drinks. So he was very like loose with his conversation. And I'm like, well, okay, Anyway, so I'm like, okay, I really try so hard, even though you guys may not believe me, I try so fucking hard to not be an asshole. So I'm like, okay, obviously he put in time, effort. He made the fucking dough. I could tell he made the fucking dough. There's like flour and shit everywhere, right? He like fucking rolled the dough and then he like put like all the fucking toppings on top and it's fucking like awesome as shit. It's fucking amazing pizza. It was delicious. But I only had like the two smallest like slices I could have. And because I was trying to not be rude, but of course I was very concerned about the calories and the sodium, whatever. Anyway, so we have the meal, right? We have water. I'm obsessed with sparkling water, so he knows that. He has like one of my favorite fucking Pellegrino sparkling waters. Fucking awesome. Anyway, so we're having a meal. We're chit-chatting. As I said, he I could tell he was drinking. He had Johnny Walker, whatever, which is fine. And he was like, what do you want? And I was like, well, if you have vodka, it'd be great. If not, I'll stick with the water. And he's like, oh, yeah. He was like, I have some Ciroc. I'm like, perfect. Just put it on ice. I'm more than happy, right? Okay, so we have, the pizza, really good meal, whatever. And he's like, okay, so the only other thing that I like made, for you specifically was I went out and I bought some ingredients so we can have margaritas. And at that point, when he said margaritas, don't get me fucking wrong, I'm from Texas. Fucking margaritas are amazing. But remember, I'm restricting my fucking calories. So instantly in my head, I'm like, trying to tally up like all the fucking calories and all the carbs and like all the sugar. And I'm like, holy fuck, like I can't do this, So, like I said, trying to be nice and polite because, my mother raised me right. I'm really fucking try, right? So I was just like, I appreciate that. But, just to remind you, like, I can't really consume all of this at one time. I mean, I'd like to, but I can't. I want to stay in the Army. I want to fix my thyroid, whatever. I want to keep my weight okay, especially because I can work out. And he was just like, oh yeah, you did mention that, didn't you? That's what got me. That's what had me realize, okay, this motherfucker, right? Because we've been speaking since September. Obviously, I know he's, nervous. Obviously, I'm very grateful that he rearranged his schedule, found a job that's going to give him most weekends off, supposedly for me, who knows, whatever. Made me fucking pizza, family recipe, fucking delicious. It was like this Irish fucking awesome pizza. But I was clear the man had not been listening to me, right? So within that moment, I was looking at like my fucking Apple Watch, and I'm just like, Ike and I are definitely not spending the night. So then he was talking. Like I said, it was a good conversation. I kept looking at my phone, looking at the weather, trying to figure out, should I get out now or should I get out tomorrow fucking morning because of the snow, right? Because remember, I'm fucking southern tier New York. I went 3 hours north. I'm fucking in Canada. I'm like, the weather's going to turn. So don't want to be an asshole, right? He has like fireplace. We're chit-chatting after the meal. I'm having the Ciroc that he gave me, which is fucking delicious and I appreciate. We're chit-chatting. Everything's going really well. Ike's having a blast. He has like water ball, like for Ike. It's awesome, right? Of course, I travel with Ike a lot, so he's got like my snacks and shit for him or whatever. Anyway, so it's going really well. And then I start giving off social clues, right? Because I'm kind of like yawning a little bit, looking at my watch. Oh, and by the way, when I walked in, I took off my boots, right? I fucking love my Docs. They're white and fucking love them. I took them off, right? And then I'm realizing I don't want to stay. So I'm kind of like, how am I going to mention that I'm not going to stay? Like, what am I going to say? And he's really like animated and I could tell he's having fun, which is awesome, but I didn't know what to say. And so I'm giving social cues, like I'm stretching, like I even made a comment to Ike. Obviously Ike doesn't understand fucking English, but I'm like, hey, sweet, you ready to go home today? Like I kept making, at least in my mind, social cues that were obvious, but he wasn't picking up on them, right? So I think because he was drinking, which is fine. Johnny Walker, I get it. Anyway, so at one point, I'm like, I need to get out of here because it looks like it's going to start snowing. So at this point, it's like 11:30 midnight or so, which is fucking late for me, by the way, if you know me at all. So I was like, well, I think I'm just going to fucking get up and go because he wasn't picking up on my cues. I didn't know what to say. He was having fun. He was telling stories, whatever. So I literally, and I know that this makes me such a fucking asshole, but I didn't know what to do at this point. Like I wanted to get home, right? So I literally stood up from like the sofa with the fireplace or whatever. And I like immediately walked to like the front door, which isn't that far, but I walked to the front door and I sit down on the ground and I start putting my boots on, right? They're like Chelsea. So I'm like, pulling them up or whatever, adjusting my socks. And he's just kind of looking at me confused because remember, he's not sober. And then I'm like, hey, sweets, let's go. So like Ike comes over, like, what's happening, right? So I attach his leash to his collar. And then I'm like, yeah, so we're going to head out. Or something random and stupid like that. And he just had this look of like confusion. So he like grabbed a sweatshirt with a hoodie, whatever. And he was like, let me walk you out. And I'm like, okay, great. So we go to the Jeep and it's cold, right? The temperature's dropping. It's, the flurries are picking up a little bit. And he's just like, so this was great. We should do this again. And I was like, yeah. But of course I knew instantly it's never going to fucking happen again. For probably a few different reasons, right? The distance is a challenge. I was very disappointed with the pizza and the margaritas. I know that may sound petty, but I felt like food at the moment, unfortunately, and calorie restriction, unfortunately, fucking is a big deal for me right now. So I felt like somebody that I'm trying to create a relationship with, I'm talking to you from fucking September, it's December, that's not even on your forefront, kind of was a concern to me. Plus, of course, I'm focused on 69 as well, right? So I was like, this is just not going to work. So we can go ahead and hug. And he's like, hey, let me know when you get home. And I'm like, of course, awesome, whatever. So I get on the road. It's fucking snow flurries and shit. And Ike's like, what's happening? But whatever. He goes to sleep because, the fucking heat in my Jeep is fucking amazing. So I'm listening to music. And then I send a couple texts to 69 and end up talking to him the whole entire fucking 2.5 hours home. So it was, in that sense, it was an awesome night. Really grateful that he decided to talk to me to help keep me company. It was awesome. So I got home, I think, just before 3 a.m., whatever. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is because it's going to be Christmas, right? So it was nighttime. I mean, of course, I'm in like a 2021 Jeep. Fucking love my Jeep. If I haven't mentioned it before, it's Snazberry. It's, 4-door unlimited sport. Fucking love my Jeep. I have a little bit of like, survival things in there inside. Ike has this little back section with the bed and blanket and all. That's pretty awesome. But the reason I mentioned it is because it got me thinking. So what if 69 hadn't been available to talk to me that night, right? What if my GPS had gone down, right? I mean, both are pretty unlikely because it's 2021 and it's not like I was in remote cities. But if you think about it, it made me start thinking about stargazing and GPS and navigation and maps and the whole bit, right? So I was about 2.5 hours from home. 3 depends on traffic and weather, whatever. Like I said, well, you guys probably know, I'm like obsessed with Airbnb. Wasn't worried about a hotel, whatever. I don't have a ton of disposable income, but I had enough to not worry if I needed to get a hotel or whatever, or extra gas or whatever. Anyway, so stargazing and celestial navigation is fucking cool as shit to me. So I'm somewhat of like a romantic at heart, right? So I don't like to advertise that. If you know me pretty well, you pretty know that. Like if you're in my circle, I'm like, I can be kind of like nostalgic, but whatever. So stargazing to me is fucking awesome as shit, because what if you are in a situation and your GPS goes down, or you fucking lose your compass, or whatever, like you don't have a map with you. The thing that I really like about it is, if you think about Christmas, right? You think about the Christmas star. There's actually still a little bit of controversy about what the Christmas star was, right? Because it was like only in the New Testament. Nobody really knows if it was like a comet, like a Halley's Comet scenario. Nobody really knows if it was a star or if it was just one of those things that gets lost in translation when it's written down, right? So it's actually really cool if you look up the Christmas star, like where it came from. Supposedly this year in 2021, actually we're going to be able to see a light, which is a comet, which could be it. So if you are interested in nighttime stargazing, astrology, zodiac, whatever, you may know this already, but I think it's kind of cool as shit. So I'm going to see if I can find it this Christmas, which, by the way, this fucking Christmas night, I have a date with 69. So we'll go ahead and talk about that on next episode and see how well it goes. But okay, anyway, so the ancient practice of celestial navigation, mostly stargazing, is really cool as shit to me. So everybody's pretty familiar with the North Star, right? So the North Star is not actually the brightest, star in the sky, but it's one of those ones that will help you navigate and identify nearby constellations, right? So the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Cassiopeia, which I fucking love that name, they all lie within the direct line of the two outer stars of the Big Dipper's bowl. So if it's just much easier to talk about if you take a look at the celestial navigations that I'm talking about. But for the most part, and of course this is a podcast, so I can't show it to you, but what's really cool about it to me is you can use it for a sense of direction, right? So if you find a constellation, right, and you find where you want to go, or if you're just lost as fuck and you're where the fuck is north and south, the constellations will help you find direction, right? So basically, if you use a direct line from two outer stars of the Big Dipper's bowl, using the distance between those two stars as a measuring stick, it's roughly 5 lengths away. It kind of gives you an idea of distance, right? So the North Star is also the last star in the Little Dipper's handle. So like I said, it's much easier to take a look at a photo or a book, and I can certainly put something on social media to talk about it. But I definitely encourage you, aside from being the whole romantic angle, which I think is cool as shit, I do think it's interesting just to take a look at when you have some free time, Google, when you're outside, it's a beautiful day, take a look. Because the way everything works out, right, the North Star is pretty constant, right? Everything else kind of in the sky changes somewhat, because of the axis and the rotation of the Earth. But the North Star is fairly, constant. So that's why it's helpful to look at the other constellations near it, because it may not be the brightest one. But I have to tell you, if you are lost as fuck, in a desert, and you don't have a fucking map or a compass, holy fuck, look up in the sky. Hopefully it's a clear night. Hopefully the weather conditions are good, and it can help you somewhat. So if you guys have any questions or concerns about anything, definitely feel free to let me know. Also, the other thing that's really cool as shit, before I stop talking about the celestial sky and the star navigation, is that the equator is Orion's belt, which is 3 horizontal stars that make up the belt, and they align east to west. And I think that alone, I think, will help you figure out where the fucking North Star is, if that makes any sense. Anyway, so if you guys have any questions about anything, as you know where I'm at. Definitely feel free to reach out at any point. If you have any tips, actually really just the tips for me with night navigation or star navigation, please feel free to mention it to me. I'll share it in another podcast. I definitely appreciate all of you. And I will definitely let you guys know what happens on Christmas. I mean, like, holy fuck, I'm going on a first date on Christmas night, right? In a strange city. I'll go into details later. A city I've never fucking been in. A city he's never been fucking in. And it's going to be fucking Christmas night. Like, how fucking Hallmark shit is that, right? So anyway, so I have to let you guys know what happens. Hopefully the weather's nice, and then he and I can actually look at the stars and talk about the navigation a little bit. But anyway, if you need anything, I'm fucking here for you. And